Welcome to the Talking Reliability podcast, where the future of maintenance meets the power of sound. Hosted by Chris Hallam from UE Systems, we're diving deep into the world of predictive maintenance, asset reliability, and cutting-edge ultrasound technology. Whether you're on the plant floor or leading reliability strategies, pull up a chair, or better yet, grab your hard hat, because we're bringing you real talk, real stories, and real insights from the experts who keep industries running. Let's crank up the volume on reliability. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talking Reliability with me, your host, Chris Hallam. And joining me today is a very special guest and good friend of mine, Vinny Hall from Catalent Pharma. Hello Vinny, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad, Chris. Thanks for inviting me along today.
Excellent. It's been great to finally get you down for a podcast. We've had so many conversations in the world of reliability in the past. It's about time we record some of this stuff, I think. It's all been very valuable, hasn't it, in the past?
Yeah, those conversations stem back 15 years nearly, Chris.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time, hasn't it, coming? So, for those that don't know you, Vinny, would you mind giving a bit of a background from what you've done and where you've come from to where you are today?
Yeah, sure, Chris. I'm Vinny Hall. I work for a company called Catalent Pharma Solutions. My background, goes back 26 years in industry from when I first joined in maintenance as a time-served engineer. I've been in different industries from food and beverage, now in pharmaceuticals, oil and gas, contract labour, resource. It's been an joyous career. I really enjoyed my time in industry and connecting with good people and learning at every opportunity I can.
No, it's fantastic, isn't it? And to be fair, it's been quite nice to watch you move around and change different things as well, Vinny, isn't it? I mean, we've been working together in quite a few different places and locations that you've been working in the past too.
Yeah, I think, Chris, as well, I'm fulfilling different roles within industry, planning, scheduling, engineering, leader, shop floor. You get to the experience of different challenges and frustrations right throughout maintenance. So when you get into a leadership and reliability role, you're able to understand different people's perspective in order to help people in the future. So I think that's where experience comes in, and
that's it.
To the cause and supporting people.
Absolutely. I mean, having that experience on the tools always helps when you get into that leadership role, isn't it? Because you've had your feet in those shoes before, so you know what the challenges are, you know the things that you're facing, which is a good way to do things. Definitely work your way up and then be able to then implement stuff from your knowledge and your experience.
Yeah, it takes me back to a time when around Christmas, I was on call for a particular company. I was part of the maintenance team there, and was called out to the top of a silo in the snow, freezing cold, and I thought to myself, dark night, obviously well lit, permitted, Chris, obviously, the right safety precautions in place, but I thought somebody somewhere we could have prevented this somehow by applying the right maintenance strategy, and I wouldn't be here in the cold. I'd be at home with my family, and I'd be, it's a preventative measure, and I think that's what's driven me to be very focused on preventing failures at sites and equipment and helping people and sharing my experiences, as well as absorbing knowledge from other people who have more experience than themselves and have other stories to share, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where it leads us on to today's episode. So today we're going to be talking about reviewing equipment performances. If you're looking at, deploying or running out a reliability strategy, looking at reviewing your equipment performance is a very good place to start and begin to understand what you're facing. And Vinny, I've been present on many sites with you in the past, watching what you've delivered to your teams and the education you provided and the mentorship around this area. There couldn't be anyone else better to ask it to come on board and give their opinions on that, I believe, Vinny. So, I mean, when we're looking at reviewing equipment performances, I'm going to hand the floor to you now. I mean, where do we start with this sort of thing? Because you're the specialist, in my opinion. Not that I'm putting any pressure on you, of course, but you know it. You know this stuff.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. When you're employed as a reliability engineer at a facility, everyone's looking to you. Sometimes it's easy to be swamped in people's problems and the day-to-day running and operations of the site, but being that person in the background, focusing on the long-term improvements within a facility, and using data to drive the area of focus. Because when it comes into question, whether that's funding, whether it's resource, you will always come into question, are you focusing on the right things? This is just broken down this week. We've been down for 24 hours. What are you doing about it, Vinny? I'm not focusing on something that's failed this week. I'm focusing on something that over the last 2 years I've analysed data. And that can be data such as CMMS information, unplanned events. It can be duration of downtime, whether that comes from an OEE tool or whether it comes from your CMMS directly. It's around building data to justify the decisions that you're going to make, as well as the investments in time and money in trying to make that improvements, because you can also demonstrate the value that you've had to the business when you actually come to the end of your journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. With all of that sort of considerations, I mean, how do you structure this sort of problem solving when it comes to looking at sort of like your performance on the assets?
So I mentioned CMMS. You can go into quality deviations, impacts. It could also be waste. Trying to categorize what is the business impact from the failures and trying to get your hands on as much data as you can to try to build that analysis, bringing it all together. You can weight the different categories of data that you've got in any calculations that you make to try to build a Pareto of, this is my top 3 worst performing assets at the facility. Don't necessarily know what's wrong with them at this moment in time, but it gives me an area of focus. Other options could be EHS records. We want to make sure that obviously our people are coming to work and that are safe, but it's trying to touch as much information and data that you can get your hands on, bringing it into one place and starting to score, building it into different quartiles, making sure that your analysis is balanced in the scoring. Because if it's not balanced, some of the scoring and the weighting could give you a skewed outcome of what is actually true and the impact of your business. But it's making sure that you are selecting the right data, it's true and accurate as best as you can be. But even if it isn't, you can still get an avenue of and an understanding of what the site is being impacted by. You can always go to somebody within the engineering team. You can interview people. You can go to the engineering and operations managers and directors, the people on the shop floor, just to sense check your data and your analysis to say, this is what the data is telling me, involve people in it and in the decisions that you take and try to get their input from different parties. One of the things I do in my current role is when I visit sites, the first thing I'll ask, and I try to spend time with leaderships at sites, asking questions of, what's your pinch points? What really hurts you? What can I help you with? And what data can we get to support that? So bringing it together, identifying specific areas of focus that could be up 3 machines or systems is where I try to stick to, because anything bigger, it's difficult to keep traction in terms of focus. It can be a challenge of the latest fire that's burning down in the facility becomes the reliability engineer's problem, whereas you need the support of an engineering leadership group to say, my reliability engineers is focusing on my reliability program, which is based on data.
Yeah, no, that's it, really. I think, if you're looking at large plants as well, when you're looking at deploying a strategy or looking at these sort of asset performances, it can be quite overwhelming to some people as well. Like you say, focusing on specific areas first of all, and then building from there. And another thing there, it sort of like stands out from what you were talking about there. It sounds as if, communication is really key as well, by the sounds of it, from people on the ground, because the people that are there spending the most time around the assets will know them better than most people, but are they communicating that to the right people to give the right information, to give you the right data as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. The CMMS is your central repository for all the asset life cycle, making sure that putting all your information in. A shortfall in many organizations is getting that detail or having a CMMS that's got the facility to do it. You may not have a cause and reason field for why the machine's actually failed to be able to quantify that. So you do have to go out into the field and speak to the people who are doing the work, because they're just as frustrated that the machine keeps falling over as what leadership and in this industry what our patients are, because in terms of making sure that we're getting our product to market.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, that's the other thing about this. When you're looking at tackling these challenges and these phases, then I mean, what sort of methodology are you deploying when looking at your performance reviews as well? So I mean, you've talked about there, the CMMS systems and things like that, which I think nobody really fully utilizes the power of a CMMS because there's so much capability within there that most people don't understand actually what it can provide there. But looking at physical methodologies, what sort of other areas would you sort of deploy to look at these reviews?
So one of the biggest challenges I always hear from the site teams is it's old, it needs replacing. Other terminologies is it's knackered up here in Liverpool. It's past its useful life, but that's not always the case. There's always a reason behind why the machine's failed. Okay, does come to the end of its asset life cycle and does need replacing because it's more costly to repair and maintain. However, looking at true root causes, 5 whys, structured problem solving methods to understand what's really causing this pain. You'd be surprised that be the people not having the right tools. It could be that we haven't got effective maintenance plans. We're not actually targeting the failures that we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. Some sites and organizations are very focused on making sure we do planned maintenance on time, but it's also about what do you find. Can you identify problems within your maintenance inspections and actually put corrective measures in place to fix it before it becomes a failure and an impact to the site? So 5 whys, the fishbone analysis, bringing teams together to get their insights, use any data that you have available. Root cause analysis, picking it away and using targeted questions to try to draw that answer out of the individuals who have it and allow them to come to the right conclusion of they've made that decision, they've contributed, they're involved, because when you actually try to make that corrective action, they'll take ownership and responsibility for it. They'll support you and you celebrate those wins from any 5 whys and root cause analysis that you perform.
No, absolutely, Vinny. And I mean, it's for those in the those that might be listening in that are new to this as well. I mean, you mentioned things like methodologies like 5 whys and RCAs and stuff like that. Would you mind giving sort of like a brief overview for those that may not be as knowledgeable in this area just yet about the reason behind using those as well and why you would use those?
So with the root cause analysis, you do start with your where, when, how, why, but what actually happened, preserving the evidence in terms of any photographs that can be taken, any data that sits in the background, pulling together as much information you can as a team, and starting with one of the hardest challenges within an RCA is defining what your problem statement is. Your sites and teams bounce between, it's X or it's Y, when actually they're looking a little bit further down what actually sits at the top. It could be process related, but trying to drill down and giving everybody a set of post-it notes is a way in which I host and facilitate an RCA. I'll have the right people in the right room. It isn't always just maintenance. You will bring in outside influences it could be people from IT, people from EHS, people from quality, who all have felt that the pain of this failure, on some way, shape or form. Maintenance touches everybody. So bringing them teams together, giving them a post-it note and a pen, whether that's some sort of marker pen to actually document their thoughts and feelings, because in a root cause analysis, there's no stupid question. And to eliminate it with detail and data to say that that's not the true root cause breeds engagement within the team. It's discussed it's explained with information and data as to why it is possible or not possible to be the root cause. And it also educates people on some of the other challenges that different departments have.
And that's fantastic. I mean, what do you in your experience as well? You've been doing this for years now, this sort of stuff. What sort of challenges have you faced from engagement perspective and things like that? People getting involved. What sort of challenges do you face, or did you face before trying to implement these sort of things in the past?
Yeah, I've faced in the past. Sometimes there's a balance of doing RCA, root cause analysis, for everything, or a 5 why. It's balancing what becomes your threshold for decision making of okay, we've had a 12-hour or a 24-hour downtime, we will perform an RCA, trying to put some structure behind the decision making at each site. And that isn't talking about me and any site specific that I'm involved with. It's the nature of the business, the site, what is really impactful to that organization. Because if you have too many RCAs, you've already got another RCA coming down the track before you're able to effectively complete all the actions that you've got. So making sure that you're reviewing your actions with your team, whether that's on a Teams call, whether it's office-based. But when you've gone through an RCA analysis, making sure you're meeting routinely to try to close out those actions that could be on a daily basis afterwards. Some could be longer term actions, but yeah, it's bringing the team back together, making sure they provide information to support the closeout of each individual action. But if you do an RCA too frequently on too low a threshold, it loses the power of what it is. It loses the engagement. People are chasing up actions, and before you know it, it can be less effective, and it fails to be successful.
No, absolutely. So, things like RCAs aren't for every type of failure, or aren't for, depending on the asset and the performance and everything else like that as well. So another thing for you then, Vinny, with all of this, because we're talking about, RCAs, 5 whys, we're looking at performance reviews, where do you stand on then implementing FAMICA studies as well with these assets?
Yeah, well, again, when you do your analysis, you don't actually know what's wrong. So you do look at that asset, and I mentioned before around talking with individuals at the facility. You can go through the RCA and 5 why problem solving methods, but you have the options of, okay, well, I've got a poor PM procedures. I don't have quantitative tasks within my PMs that are being executed by the team. How do I build a accurate and an effective maintenance strategy for a piece of equipment? How do I do that? And using an RCM and FAMICA assessment, again, brings teamwork, brings people into the room together, collaborative working, again, for the outputs that bought into the process. Using P&IDs, drawings, going through individual components, starting with, okay, one specific asset, section it into certain systems and subsystems to be able to look at, okay, well, I'm going to focus on a conveying system, or I'm going to focus on the control system separately. You need to partition them, as a technical term. You partition the system, separate it out into different sections, and you start to go through each individual piece of equipment. Even with condition monitoring, Chris, which you're very obviously a leader within industry, people can get held up on a motor. Well, if I purchase a piece of condition monitoring equipment and do inspections on it on a motor, it's never going to fail undetected. Well, that's not necessarily the case. You can have an electrical fail that can cause it. So when going through an RCM FAMICA, it's really looking at the different failure modes of each individual component, each individual asset, and breaking that down into what's the impact for each of those failure modes to the business itself. Ultimately, there's certain electrical components predominantly that are run to fail components, making sure you carry the right spares. Going through that assessment to say, okay, I'm going to focus on a motor. I'm going to look at the different failure modes for that motor. What can I do? Can I align it correctly? Can I lubricate it correctly? And breaking those different planned maintenance activities that I can put in place in order to have an effective strategy and determine deterioration on that asset.
No, that's it. Yeah, no, couldn't put it any better myself. With those sort of things. I mean, you talk about all those things there, Vinny, and you're almost talking with this as well. When you're implementing these things, the methodologies, the data you're getting, you still have to sell this to those above us, the business owners, the business unit owners, and things like that. And you have to still justify the investment to do all of this as well, haven't you? I mean, I guess using a cost benefit analysis, you could say.
Absolutely. And again, I go back to, and I always use this, and why you do it at the very beginning is the data-driven maintenance. You've got data to understand how often that machine's failed, the duration across a period of time, and you leverage on that to say, okay, well, not only the failure data, but when you do go looking for investments in condition monitoring equipment, you're also enabled to increase asset uptime. So you monitor the machine in its true running form. It's up to temperature. You don't need to take it down to perform an inspection or look for the tolerance. You can hear it. You can see it in the data. You can apply oil analysis. Not one technology is going to be your golden nugget, let's say, for any facility. I've heard that even listening to the podcast in the past, Chris, bringing those technologies together to make a good decision. But you're correct. Cost benefits analysis. What have we suffered from in the past? How much downtime have we had in line with what maintenance tasks can I remove that we currently have to put effective ones that are data driven, that are using industry best practice tools and technologies to understand the asset health. You know yourself, you go to the doctors, put a stethoscope on you, or a blood monitoring device, or temperature monitoring device. These are all similar to what we're using with condition monitoring, but we're monitoring asset health.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you think about it, a lot of the stuff there where you're looking at justifying is looking at previous data, previous histories, things like that. Now, I can imagine not every industry, not every plant is necessarily great at recording this sort of information. So, I mean, if somebody's starting out on this journey that hasn't, got any of that sort of thing to hand it, they might not even be using a sophisticated CMS system that's giving that data. They must have it somewhere, but I mean, there must be challenges when starting that to try and build that justification or like cost benefit analysis as well.
It is, and it's understanding it. And I know, Chris, we've engaged on many occasions. It's around understanding what the customer's needs are. Have you got the foundational elements in place? Because you can go and apply RCM, 5Y, RCA, all of these tools that are available to us. But if you don't have the fundamental foundational elements in place for maintenance, planning, scheduling, documentation, work management in general, do you have a CMMS? Is that where you need to start documenting the things that you have? Or even if you don't have a CMMS, some sort of Excel spreadsheet is a starting point for any organization. This is where it starts to build from, and understanding the maturity of the site. And whenever I arrived at different organizations through my career, and people have asked me questions in the past when I go to some of the seminars like Main Tech and engage with other people from across industry. It's engaging to understand, and it's infectious to understand where other people are on their journey with maintenance and trying to target where you start. And that's where the data-driven decisions come in from the very beginning, and the RCAs and 5Ys, because it might be that you do have the right maintenance plans in place, but the breakdown in the process is we don't have a planner or a scheduler. So regardless of our carrying out that inspection, we still suffer the consequence of failure. So it's, everyone touches maintenance. Everybody, we all preach the same thing, Chris. We're all bought in. Everybody can have an involvement here and an input.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. And it seems to be a common trend through all of the podcast series that we talk about is having a grasp of the basic fundamentals, having the right culture, the right mindset, the right energy. I mean, if you've got somebody coming into this, leading these sort of projects and tasks with that sort of energy that like you have, and I've seen you in these sort of meetings and that with people, and that energy can be infectious, and that can bring that on to help make that change. I mean, we're coming towards the end of this podcast today on this point, but for people out there that are new to this, Vinny, what would be, in your opinion, the best place for them to start? What's your key takeaway, would you say, from today's podcast for people that are new to this?
Looking at what data you can get your hands on, and if you don't have the data, where can you get the data and how can you start to build that repository of information that can help you make decisions in the future? Because that's going to support everything that you do throughout your reliability program. Make sure you get further investments, you get buy-in. And one key thing I didn't really touch on was selling back to the individuals who've participated, the successes of what you have. It's a key. Anybody who's involved, make sure you celebrate that and actually give some kudos to the individuals who are very much involved in supporting the program.
Yeah,
together we're stronger.
You hit the nail on the head there. Celebrating success, and it's something that I've seen that you've done very well over the years, and it's something that we don't do enough of, because you could have a good win, and then you could have several good wins, and then you have one one bad negative thing, and everyone will focus on that one thing. And we need to shout about the positives. We need to do that and need to share that within the organizations.
Absolutely. It is something that I like to share when I am challenged on that face, Chris, is in terms of make sure you focus on the 9 successes versus the 1 failure that you didn't pick up. And we've always got room for opportunities to improve.
Oh, always. You can always improve upon perfection. That's the way I see it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
No, absolutely. So no, thank you for your time today, Vinny. For everyone listening, I'd like to thank you for coming along. You can follow Talking Reliability podcasts on our LinkedIn page, on Spotify and YouTube. You can also find Vinny on LinkedIn as well, sharing lots of knowledgeable information. And I'd like to remind you all of the Talking Reliability live event in Warrington on the 2nd of October this year. There are spaces available. You can register for the event at www.talkingreliability.com, where you'll see me. And Vinny will also be there talking a bit further on some more of these sort of top topics. So looking forward to that one in person, Vinny, as well.
Absolutely. And if anyone's interested to connect with us during the event, please reach out. It's a pleasure.
I'm sure they will be, Vinny. So, but for now, I'd like to thank you for your time, Vinny. It's been a pleasure as always. Finally recorded something together. And for everyone listening, thank you for your time. And we'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.